The topic of our today class is tumors, and we will discuss tumors in our next three classes. But today we will talk more about the theoretical part, and in the end of the class you will get a test. But cases we will do on next week, probably. So, the tumors, it is a huge topic, and today we will discuss common study about tumors, and we will discuss some different types of tumors. We should start from the definition and synonyms of tumor. Sometimes they told like neoplasia or blastoma, but they mean tumor. So tumor, it is a pathological process which characterized by understated or quick and constant reproduction of growth of cell. So the tumor, it is a pathological process which happens in the organism and leads to formation of new tissue and new cells. Some of tumors may be benign and some of them may be malignant. And these differences are most important for us and we should discuss it today. The topic of tumors is really popular nowadays because we can see that the tumors may be one of the common reasons of death, and they take the third place among mortality causes in our country. So the place in mortality causes in all our worlds is the same, something about third or fourth place. Sometimes in some countries we may take second place or first one. Between tumors, one of the most popular for men are carcinoma of lungs, and in women we may see breast cancer. In second place, in both males, we will see carcinoma of stomach, and third place, it is a carcinoma of large intestine. So you may see that malignant tumors may be localized in any different tissues, in any different places of our organism. And also we will have some different anatomical or clinical manifestations, and we have to know them. There are some theories of origin of tumors. All of them you may see on the slide. The first of them was found by Virchow, and it was physico-chemical theory. And in few words, we may talk that this theory told that tumors may develop as a result of alteration by chemical and physical factors on the tissues. So in this theory, we talk about some special factors of a different nature which may lead to damage of nuclei, to damage of DNA in our nucleus, and lead to reproduction of a cell of tumor. The second theory is teratogenic theory. It was found by Cohnheim, and it tells that the tumors are the part of our genetic program, and tumors are a result of problems of genetic problem. And we will see that in some diseases, in some conditions, we will see formation of tumors from our own tissues. The third theory is virusogenic theory. The founder is Zilber, and in the main idea of this theory is there are some different viruses or microorganisms which lead to tumor formation. It is really a lot of different viruses which may lead to formation of tumors, mostly malignant tumors. For example, papilloma virus of human will lead to formation of papillomas, and papillomas are benign tumors, but sometimes we may remodeling to malignant tumors. and we will see formation of malignant tumors in the place of benign. The next theory is theory of Burnett, and it is an immunological theory. It is about emphasis of the role of the immune system losing the ability to destroy tumor cells in our organism. So according to this theory, in our organism, each of moment, we may see creation of new tumoral cell, and our organism should find them and kill. So, but sometimes our immunological system have some insufficiency, and it is leads to activation of tumoral process in the organism. The next theory is a polyetiological theory of Petrov, and it is a summary of uh, all previous theories. And also we should discuss the mutational theory, which based on cancer areas due to accumulation of mutations in specific parts of cellular DNA, leading to formation of defective proteins, and like a result, tumors formation. One of the newest theories in our course, according to tumors, is theory of oncogenes and proto-oncogenes. And this theory is about uh, these factors. So in our organism, we may see some sleeping parts of DNA, which will lead to which in case of activation will lead to formation of tumor. But in most cases, we keep sleep and we will see no tumor process activation. According to physical chemical theory, we should discuss the oncogenes. Oncogenes are some substances which lead to formation of tumor. So on this slide you may see some kinds of oncogenes. They may be influence of cancerogenic substances, so these are some chemical structures like aromatic amines and other radicals which will lead to destroying of normal structure in DNA and progressive of mutation. The second group is food-borne oncogenic, which are associated with some moderated food and modified food, and sometimes it may be associated with oil and frying food. We will see progressive of tumors in case of using this food. And hormonal oncogenes, which associated with some abnormal composition and abnormal influence of hormone in organism. Some tumors are hormone dependent, and we may see some rising or decrease of some tumor go under the hormone regulation. On this slide you may see cancerogenic substances, and you may see all of them. So it is chemical oncogenic substances. They are polycyclic carbohydrates, cigarette smoking, aromatic amines, cyclamine and sarmine, alpha-toxin, nitrazamines, anti-cancer drugs like cyclophosphamide may also lead to formation of tumor, and asbestosis. Foodborne oncogenes localized on this slide, it is insufficiency of dietary fibrils in the food, allowance, slowing down of food passage in intestines, reproduction of anaerobic bacteria. Anaerobic bacterial ferments cause of the formation of cancerogenic substance in our organism. So not only these biological factors may lead to activation of tumoral growth, but also their products. So products of bacteria may be a cause of tumor formation. Hormonal oncogenes you may see on this slide. It is estrogens which leads to proliferation and activation of tumors of endometrium and tumors of mammary gland, for example. It is difficult, or it will lead to vaginal carcinoma in descendants. And steroids. Steroids are really important because where using is so common in nowadays in medicine. So we try to treat a lot of different diseases by steroids, and they lead to secondary complications like tumors of liver, for example. And also steroids may have a negative influence to adrenal glands. Physical oncogenes associated with different types of radiations. It may be ultraviolet radiation, and this type of radiation mostly will lead to cancer of skin and formation of melanomas. X-ray radiation will lead to leukosis and other types of malignant tumors. Radioactive isotopes or some metals which has radioactive features will lead to formation of some malignant tumors. Sometimes it may be osteosarcoma or cancer of thyroid gland, yeah, or liver carcinoma also. So it may be different types of cancer. Viral oncogenes may be divided into RNA-containing viruses and DNA-containing viruses. So, some examples of them you may see on the slide. So, I have already told you about papillomavirus, Epstein-Barr virus, hepatitis virus B and C also will lead to some problems in liver, and also it may be ADS infection, which will lead to formation of lymphomas, for example. So, when we try to identify the tumor, we should describe it by some characteristics, and all of these characteristics are localized on this slide. So, the first of all is type of atypism, the type of growth, the borders of tumor, the recurrence of tumor, the metastatic process, and influence on the organism. So now we should discuss all of these parameters a bit closer. So atypism. Atypism, it is a new features which are not typical for the normal tissue. So in description of tumor, there are a lot of different types of atypism, but in morphological description, there are some most important one. So we are morphological atypism, which include tissural and cellular type of atypism, functional atypism, antigenic atypism, and metabolic atypism. So I should tell you a few words about each of them. Tissue atypism, it is a type of part of morphological atypism which characterized by derangement of size or form or tissue structures interactions. So the tumoral tissues looks some different against normal tissues. So when we examined the slide out of which contain tumor, it doesn't matter benign tumor or malignant one, we will see some changes in the tissue size, in the forms of some fibrils in this tissue. The structures of these tumors will be some abnormal. So it is tissue atypism. The cellular atypism is most pronounced in the malignant tumors, and it is one of the most important characteristics of malignant tumor. In cellular atypism, we should pay attention to polymorphism of nucleus and the cells themselves. So we will see that the nuclear size and quantity is increased. Increases of nuclear cytoplasmic index. So nuclear cytoplasmic index, it is a size of nuclei divided to size of cytoplasma, and we will see that nuclei will be increased, and like a result of it we will see increases of this index. Hyperchromatic of nuclei. Nuclei will look like hyperchromic, where will contain a lot of staining solutions, where will looks like deep blue or deep or dark blue color. Presence of pathological mitosis. So, in result of mitosis, we should got two same cells. The pathological mitosis is associated with formation of some atypical cells. So, one of them will contain more chromatin, another one will contain less. But both of these cells will be alterative and they will be damaged. The growth and borders of tumors may be oppositional, and when tumor grow to the tumor transformation in surrounding cells. So the uh, cells of tumor try to attack surrounding tissues and transform they into malignant in the tumoral one. Expressing role or grow is associated with growing of tumor out of itself when the tumoral tissue just moves away all surrounding tissues and doesn't penetrate into them. But this type of growth will lead to atrophy out of pressure, and in result of it we will see atrophy of surrounding tissues, and this type of growth most typical for benign tumors. The invasive or infiltrative growth associated with invasion of tumor into surrounding tissues. So this type of growth mostly typical for malignant tumors. There are different anatomical or microscopical forms of tumor. Tumor may looks like node, so it is a solid formation, mostly rounded with rounded borders and the different form. Sometimes the tumor may looks like that cyst, if sometimes it looks like bubble with some fluid inside of them. Sometimes it may looks like infiltrate in some non-structured masses which infiltrate normal tissues, and in this place we may see accumulation of malignant cells, and tumor may looks like ulcer. In this case we will see that tumor will looks like the wound, and we will see bleeding here, we will see vessels in the bottom of the ulcer, and formation of some atypical cell in the border of this ulcer. According to the hollow of organ lumen, the tumors can be exophytic and endophytic. Exophytic when the tumor grows into the lumen of an organ. Endophytic type of growth associated when with the proteus which localized in the wall of the hollow organ and surrounding tissues. A few words about the diagnostic prognosis of these different types of growth. The better prognosis has exophytic uh, tumors because they could be found earlier than endophytic one, because they may think about endophytic tumors and they will have the first clinical manifestation when the whole of or when the lumen of organ will be decreased, and we will see some blockage of this organ, and the patient has some problems with these changes. Recurrence or relapse of tumors. It is a repeated appearance of a tumor after its excision or radiotherapy. So some of tumors could be returned after the excision, and on the same place we will see the tumor with the same characteristics. Yeah, mostly it is typical for malignant tumor, but sometimes not more many benign tumors has the same characteristics. And one of the most important in the prognosis is metastatic process. The metastatic process, it is a formation of secondary tumoral nodes on some distance out of primary focus. The metastases are typical only for malignant tumors, and there are different ways of metastatic process. It may be lymphogenic, it may be hematogenic, and also contact way of spreading of tumor. So, sometimes we told about the mixed type of metastasis. So I think it is easier to understand when lymphogenous metastasis associated with the transformation and transplantation of parts of a tumor through the lymph vessels and through the lymph nodes. Hematogenous through the bloodstream, but we should discuss the contact or implantational way of metastatic process. In contact way of spreading, typical for metastatic process in some cavity of our body. For example, if we talk about tumors of abdominal cavity, we will see that, for example, cancer of stomach will overgrow the stomach wall and spread into the liver or into pancreas gland. So we will not see any blood supply or same blood vessels in these organs, but we will see the spreading of tumor from one organ to another one by the contact. So we have way localized nearby. That's why we will see overgrowing of tumor from one organ to another one. Yeah, I have already told you that metastasis may be lymphogenic, hematogenic, and in the body cavities or dissemination way. Influence on the organism could be local and general, and local influence is associated with compression of surrounding tissues, atrophy of tumor invasion into surrounding tissues which were restriction. General influence on the organism is associated with development of intoxication and general atrophy or cachexia, tumoral cachexia. So, in summary, we should remember the differential features of benign and malignant tumors. So you may see this table on the slide. So, tissue atypism, typical for both types of tumor, for benign and for malignant. Sometimes we talk like for benign tumors, typical only tissue atypism, but for malignant only cellular. But it is not true exactly. So for malignant tumor, typical as tissue as cellular atypism. The type of growing. The expansive growth is typical for benign tumor, the infiltrative growth typical for malignant one. The borders. The distinct borders typical for benign tumors, indistinct borders typical for malignant one. Recurrence are not typical for benign tumors but way typical for malignant one. Metastasis, it is special characteristics only of malignant tumors. The local effect have both of these different types of tumors. So tumors, and it doesn't matter which form of it, benign or malignant, will have local effect. So it will lead to local atrophy, which is associated with atrophy due to the pressure. So the tumoral tissues will have some pressure activities to surrounding tissue and will lead to atrophy of them. But malignant tumor has common effect, and in the result of this common effect we will see development of tumoral cachexia. It is a special form of a special form of common influence, tumoral cachexia. So I hope you remember it from our previous class when we discussed atrophy. So now we should discuss how we should give the names to the tumor. So the rule is easier. For benign tumors, we just take a Latin name or Greek name of the tissue and add suffix "oma". For example, the benign tumor from, for example, bones will be osteoma. So osteo, it is a Latin name of bones tissue, and we just plus oma, and it will look to us that this tumor is benign. For malignant tumors, we can see some different ways of nomenclature. So first of all, we should divide all malignant tumors to two tumors from epithelium and to the tumors from mesenchymal tissues. So in case of epithelial tumors, we just add suffix carcinoma or just tell cancer. For example, the malignant tumor from glandular epithelium may has two names, like it may be glandular cancer or adenocarcinoma. So for example, for malignant tumor of the stomach, it is right to use both of these variants. So you may tell like adenocarcinoma of the stomach or glandular cancer of the stomach. It is the same terms. For malignant mesenchymal tissues, we should use sarcoma, and we should remember which which tissues are mesenchymal. They are adipose tissue, bones tissue, the tissue or the connective tissue, the vessels, the cartilages. They will have suffix sarcoma. For example, osteosarcoma, it will be malignant tumor from bones, or chondrosarcoma will be malignant tumors from cartilages. Liposarcoma will be malignant tumors from adipose tissue, and so on. From the embryonal tumors, we should add blastoma. So sometimes we will see that some tumors develop from the embryonal tissues, and we should add suffix blastoma. So from this common rule, we can see two exclusions. For example, melanoma and seminoma. So we will see that all these terms ends to oma, suffix oma, and it should be benign tumor. But it is exclusions, and melanoma and seminoma are malignant tumors. Melanoma, it is a malignant tumor from melanin synthesized tissue, and seminoma, it is a malignant tumors of intestines. According to histogenesis, tumors could be divided to the seventh group, like epithelial organ non-specific, epithelial organ specific, mesenchymals, tumors from melanin-forming tissue, tumors of the nervous system, and tumors of the blood system, and teratomas. According to the degree of maturity or clinical and anatomical features, tumors could be benign, malignant, and benign tumors with local destructive growth. So the last type of tumors are typical, for example, for tumors of central nervous system. So these tumors has all characteristics of benign tumor, but they will lead to local destructive effect and will lead to some life dangerous condition. Sometimes these tumors have invasive role, cellular atypism, but they never metastasis. So sometimes it may be malignant tumor without metastatic characteristics. The typical or worldwide classification of tumors associated with TNM uh, way. According to this way, we should use three most important characteristics of a tumor, which are localized in these three letters. The letter T means the spread of the primary tumor. So this parameter should describe all characteristics of tumor. So it should be tumor size, tumor form, or some other characteristics of the primary tumor. So we should pay attention which near under the all of these letters we should find the index, and index may be in numbers from 1 to 4, and also it may be marked by letter X. So when we don't know any characteristics according to this parameter. The letter N means the absence or present metastasis in the regional lymph nodes and the degree of their damage. And letter M means the absence or presence of distant metastasis. The letter M could be 0, X, 0 or 1. So in case of X, we didn't find any areas of metastatic process. In index 0, we checked whole body and couldn't find any metastasis. In index 1, we found the metastasis. All tumors will have different scale for their description, and you will discuss each of these scales in surgery department. So the most important these scales are for surgeons. Also, we should use the typical scheme of description of a tumor. We should start from the localization, outward appearance, macroscopical description like size, form, consistency, borders, color on incision, and microscopical description like characteristics of the tissue and presence or absence, cellular atypism, and all other microscopical descriptions. So now we should discuss epithelial tumors. I have already told you today that epithelial tumors could be organ non-specific without a specific localization. So, for example, it could be tumors from the tissue which are present in some different organs. For example, it is a glandular epithelium. So it doesn't matter which gland it is, but we will see the same glandular or prismatic epithelium in any organs. So that's why it is really difficult to say from which gland this tumor is taken. So organ specific grows from the special organs, and only due to macroscopical description of a tumor we may make a suggestion where this tumor is localized. So organ non-specific epithelium tumors, the most frequent group of tumors, and this group includes tumors that do not have morphological specificity and may occur in different organs. I have already told you about it. they arise from the epithelium, multilayer flat epithelium, transient layer epithelium, or it may grow from the glandular epithelium and or from the cambial embryonal cells. Benign organ non-specific tumors of the epithelium are papilloma and adenoma. Papilloma is a tumor from epithelium localized on the skin and mucous membranes covered with a multilayer flat and transsolutional epithelium. So we should see uh, that this tumor covered by multilayer flat epithelium, which looks like normal. So we don't have any cellular autism, only tissue one. And adenoma. Adenoma, it is a benign tumor from a glandular epithelium, and it may grow in different organs. Sometimes it is really important to know that sometimes we called adenoma like anematous polyp. It is the same definition. Malignant organ non-specific tumors of the epithelium are called cancer. Macroscopical structure can see a lot of different morphological forms, and it may be organ non-specific cancer. So it may be planocellular cancer, it may be adenocarcinoma, it may be cancer in situ, it may be solid cancer, fibrous cancer, medullary cancer, mucous cancer, small cell cancer, and all other different forms of it. So I want to pay your attention for a lot of different forms of cancer, and you just have to remember all of them. Organ-specific epithelium cancer grows in the liver, and in the liver we may see hepatoma, or benign tumor of hepatocytes, and we will see increased number or increasing of size of different hepatocytes with formation of a node of benign tumor. Hepatocellular cancer, it is a malignant tumor of the hepatocyte, and the morphological features of this tumor include the ability to synthesize a bile. That's why these nodes will have a green color on incision, and they are really dangerous for surrounding tissues, because if the bile localized not in the bile ducts, it will lead to difficult damage of surrounding tissue with dystrophic and necrotic changes. In the kidney, we will see benign form or adenoma of kidney, and there are different malignant tumors of a kidney. It may be hypernephroid kidney cancer, and it is one of the most common type of kidney cancer in adults, usually localized at the upper pole of the kidney. This node characterized by very motley picture of the incision due to necrosis and hemorrhages. It consists of atypical cells with a very light empty cytoplasm, and it's associated with a lot of containing of fat inside of them. The cell cancer is synonymous with a tumor. The main features of cancer is that it gives the first metastasis in the hematogenous way. And firstly, the metastases are localized in the lungs. So then they may give a metastasis to another organs, and the second typical place for localization of metastasis are bones or bone tissue. So the typical place of localization of hypernephroid kidney cancer are lungs and bones. Fetal cancer of kidney or nephroblastoma or tumor Williamson tumor or fetal nephroma. It is a tumor from nephroid embryonal tissue, nephrotic embryonal tissue, usually occurs in childhood, and main morphological feature is that for a very long time the tumor grows expansively and doesn't have any metastasis. From the epidermis of breast, nipple, and areola, there are no benign forms, only one tumor grows in the nipple area. It is a Paget's cancer or Paget disease. This tumor looks like a ulcer, and this form of cancer is characterized by ischemia of the areola of the nipple and the bright Paget cells in the epidermis, and cancer on the duct. In the mammary gland, we will see the epithelium of alveoli and excretory ducts. The benign forms of tumors of mammary glands are fibroadenoma. It is a benign tumor of the glandular epithelium with evidence of connective tissue in it. Depending on how the connective tissue grows, it may be intracanaliculi, pericanaliculi, and mixed one. Malignant tumor of mammary gland is non-infiltrative cancer or glandular and solid variants of cancer, and duct non-infiltrative cancer. It's divided into papillary and eel-like, which is characterized by multiply necrosis, calcification, and multicentric growth. In the uterus, we may see cysts, mole, and bubble drift. It is a phenomenon of implantation and implantation disorders when we will see formation of tumor from the chorionic villi. The villi of the chorion increased in size, become adenomatous, they have no vessels, and the chorionic epithelium proliferates. Sometimes alterated villi with blood flow can be carried to other organs. Sometimes it happens in the lungs, brain, and bones, liver also, and in case of it, the bubble skid is called like destructive one. The malignant tumors of the uterus associated with chorioepithelioma. This tumor invades all layers of the uterine wall and produce metastasis. Chorioepithelioma can also occur in men, and it is a result of teratoblastoma. So it is teratoma with some changes of it. The tumor on the incision is rigid, consists of a microscopic examination of two types of cells. It contains large light Langhans cells and cytoplasmic situs. There is no stroma of the tumor, and the tumor on the histological examination represents by lakes of blood linked by tumor cells. The tumor is hormonally active, secretes gonadotropin, and the third metastasis gives by the hematogenous way to the lungs, and do it really fast in some earlier one of the earliest metastases. Appendage of the skin. So from the epithelium and surrounding gland ducts we may see benign syringioadenoma and malignant form syringiocarcinoma. From the epithelium of sudoryphone glands, secretory parts, we may see benign hydroadenoma. From the epithelium of hair follicles, we will see trichoepithelioma and trichoepitheliocarcinoma. It is a malignant form of tumor from this tissue. From the basal cells, we will see formation of basaleoma. In the ovaries, we will see benign tumors like serous and mucinous cystadenoma and malignant one, serous and pseudomucinous cyst adenocarcinoma. And from the sex coat of stroma of ovaries, we will see the coma and granulosa cell tumor. Malignant forms will be associated with malignant coma and granulosa cell carcinoma. In the testicles, we will see tumor from the sex cells, like malignant tumor seminoma, and I have already told you about it. It is an exclusion because it's end to the suffix "oma", but it's still malignant tumor. And from cells of Sertoli Leydig cells, a benign tumor from these cells. In the thyroid glands, we also may see benign and malignant tumor. Benign is follicular or solid adenoma. The malignant one is cancer of the thyroid gland. And according to morphology, the cancer of thyroid gland could be papillary, so it's one of the most frequent type of this tumor. The papillary type of cancer are characterized by formation of some overgrowth in the gland stroma. The follicular, the metastasis, the most important characteristic is hematogenous metastasis here. Solid with stromal amyloidosis, and it will be medullary carcinoma, and it grows from the cells and undifferentiated. It's extremely malignant tumor. It is more common in older women. There are two of its histological variants. It may be small cell, undifferentiated malignant thyroid carcinoma, and gigant one. Gastrointestinal tract. In benign tumors, we should mark the carcinoid, a tumor arising from epitheliochromaffin cells or Kulczycki cells. It's localized more often in the appendix, less often in the stomach or intestines. In case it is synthesized serotonin, therefore it's clinically manifested by carcinoid syndrome, a sharp increase in blood pressure, flushing of the face, skin, diarrhea, and so on. The malignant type of gastrointestinal tract typical tumors is malignant carcinoid. Tumors from mesenchymal tissue. So we should again remember the tissues which are associated or included in group of mesenchymal tissue. We are connective tissue, adipose tissue, vessels, blood and lymphatic vessels also, muscular tissue, bone tissue, cartilaginous tissue, synovial and serous membrane of our organism. Tumors from the connective tissue. Benign one is fibroma, and fibroma could be solid or soft, and it will depend on its consistent. Malignant will be fibrosarcoma or polymorphonuclear sarcoma. Tumors with a local invasive growth is desmoid or fibromatosis. Fibroma. Localization localized on the skin, ovaries, extremities, and exactly it may localized anywhere. The growth is slow and expensive. The bodies are distinct. The solid or soft rounded neoplasm with white color on incision. Fibrosarcoma more often is localized in the extremities, retroperitoneal space, dimension is large, borders are indistinct. On its in incision, it resembles fish meat. Many colored, so it may be white, it may be yellow, it may be red, and some other colors. Consistent, mostly solid for fibrosarcoma, and soft for polymorphonuclear sarcoma. Fibromatosis that happens along fascias and aponeurosis look like fibromas, but have infiltrating grow in the surrounding tissues. Are not metastasis, so that's why it is tumors with local destructive growth. A third fibromatosis is desmoid, abdominal, intra-abdominal, and extra-abdominal. Tumors from the adipose tissue could be benign and malignant. In benign tumors, we should remember that we have two different kinds of fatty tissue. It may be normal or yellow fat, and tumors from yellow fat will have name like lipoma. From the brown fat or newborn fats, it will be hibernoma. So sometimes we will see the development of hibernomas in adults, but it's really rare a situation. Mostly it happens in childhood. The malignant type of tumor from adipose tissue will be liposarcoma. Localization of lipoma under the skin of extremities, back, belly, so it could localize anywhere. The typical characteristics of lipoma is it is a node with any size. It could be from some millimeters due to some centimeters. Mostly it has flabby consistent with distinct borders. Micra, it consists of the fats, lobes of various dimensions and forms adipocytes. Looks like normal. So it is just overgrowing of fatty tissue in one place. Liposarcoma, typical localization of it is retroperitoneal space, characterized by slow growth. Lipoma malignization is possible, so sometimes liposarcoma it is a result of malignization of lipoma, and more than 10 centimeters in diameters, and it may be dangerous for view of liposarcoma. There are a lot of different tumors of vessels. So benign tumor from blood vessels will be hemangioma or lymphangioma. Malignant, so it may be hemangiosarcoma and lymphangiosarcoma. Hemangioma localized in the skin, liver. More often it manifests itself in childhood, characterized by local infiltrating growth, and it could be capillary, cavernous, and mixed one. Lymphangioma localized in the soft tissues of the neck and head. Typical macroscopical view will associate with formation of node with yellow color with distinct borders. It may be capillary and cavernous again, and malignant tumors from vessels are found extremely seldom, so it is a rare condition and growing fast and infiltrative surrounding tissues. Fast dimension through blood circulatory system and lymphatic system. Tumors from the muscular tissue may be benign rhabdomyoma from the transverse strips muscles and leiomyoma from the unstriped muscles. Malignant, so rhabdomyosarcoma and leiomyosarcoma. Rhabdomyoma is a rare tumor, more often is found in childhood. Localization is nasopharynx, where thick muscles like heart, for example, node of red-brown color with distinct borders. Leiomyoma characterized by next characteristics. It localized more often in the uterus of 30 or 50 years old women, can appear in any organs, can be multiplied. Macroscopically, it looks like a white nodule with distinct borders. Malignant tumors from the muscle tissue are found extremely seldom. Localization is retroperitoneal space, uterus, head, neck, and this tumor has unfavorable prognosis mostly. Tumors from the bone tissue. I have already told you that benign tumor has name like osteoma, malignant osteosarcoma, or Ewing sarcoma. Osteoma is develops both in cortical, tubular, and spongy trabecular bones, more often in the cranial bones. The distinct canareous and tubular osteomas, the disorderly growth of bones, beams, and connective tissue is characterized for it. Osteosarcoma more often appear in childhood and in young people. Pathology of the 13th chromosome is typical for it. The typical localization are long bones like thin bone, cannon bone, and Ewing sarcoma manifested itself in childhood only in case of translocation of 11th and 22nd chromosome. Tumors from the melanin-forming tissue. Uh, it is a tumor from melanocytes, and we should remember where we may see melanocytes in normal conditions. We may see it in iris, we may see it in the skin, the pia mater of the brain, and in the retina, and also in the colon. Only in these places we may see the primary areas of tumor, and only in this localization the tumor could be benign, and benign neoplasma is nevus, but malignant one is melanoma. Melanoma characterized by dark or black masses which formed in the surrounding tissues, and it, it is a tumor with dramatically fast growing and early metastatic process. Neurosis. It is a benign tumor which localized mostly in the skin, and it may be borderline, intradermal, difficult, epithelioid or juvenile type, and blue one. The nebuses are localized on the skin in the form of protruding growth of a brown color. Histologically, we may see epidermic, dermic, intradermic, complex, juvenile, and blue nebuses, and I have already told about it. Melanoma is a malignant tumor from the melanin synthesized tissues. The tumor is usually black, localized where there is melanin forming tissues on the skin, the tissues of the eye, sometimes in the brain, adrenal glands, and a very evil tumor. So it is a really malignant tumor, and which quickly gives lymphogenous and hematogenous metastasis. So And sometimes melanoma could be a result of transformation of neuroses. That's why it is really important to pay attention for neuroses of our patients and uh, keep in touch about each of neuroses. We should uh, ex delete them before they becomes to malignant tumor. Tumors of the neurosystems and meninges. The common features of tumors of central nervous system are variety of clinical morphological forms of tumors from the neural tissue. More often, they may be found in children. Malignant tumors are disseminated seldom and only through the liquor channel. Even benign tumors are considered malignant because they can compress the vital centers of the brain. The classification of this tumor. So it may be neuroectodermal tumors, tumors from the cells of the central nervous system, meningovascular tumors of the meninges, and tumors of the crane and spinal nerves. On these slides you may see full classification of this tumor. Tumors of meninges, and it is a next part of the classification. So tumors of meninges and tumor of cranial and spinal nerves. So you may see that tumors of central nervous system has really difficult classification. So thank you for your attention. It was all about theoretical part of the class.